2025 Japanese Grand Prix was completed earlier today around Suzuka, Japan, and just after the race has concluded, I'm here as always to review it with my 5 things that we learned from review of the third round of the Formula 1 season for 2025. So let's get into it, guys. And the first thing that we got to talk about, the first thing that's going to really cause controversy in this race, is the incident between Lando Norris and Max Verstappen on the pit lane. Now, Max Verstappen, of course, got pole position incredibly with an unbelievable lap on Saturday in Japan. He kept that first position going through the first round of pit stops. This was a one-stop race for absolutely everybody. Tyre wear was not an issue here. A lot cooler, a lot wetter as well. It was quite damp at the start of the race as well in Suzuka, Japan. So no real issues with tyre wear. So everybody was able to do a very comfortable one stop in this Grand Prix. Now, Max Verstappen was leading coming into this. His pit box was further back on the pit lane than Lando Norris's was, but Max Verstappen actually had a really slow pit stop, I think 3.3 seconds, which I know is a slow stop these days. That's about a second or so slower than what Lando Norris's was. That allowed Norris to actually be released pretty close to Max Verstappen, and he was partly alongside, keyword partly alongside Max Verstappen, and he did try and get past him going through the pit lane exit, but in his words, Max Verstappen did force him off the track. But if you look at the replays, if you look at the incident, if you look at it from Max Verstappen's perspective as well, he didn't force him off the track. There's absolutely nothing wrong there, in my opinion. The stewards did investigate it. They found no wrongdoing there. If Max Verstappen was going to give Lando Norris some room, he probably would have crossed over the pit lane exit on the outside, on the left side as you go out. So that meant that he would have got a penalty for cutting the pit lane. Verstappen did absolutely nothing wrong. It's just like going through a corner. If you're the driver that's there first, if you're leading going into that bit, you can dictate the racing line. Max Verstappen didn't do any kind of aggressive moves or anything like that. I see no issue at all with what Verstappen did. And I don't think Norris will, looking back on it either. It's just the heat of the moment at the end of the day. You know what racing drivers are like. They'll say anything down the radio to try and get the other one a penalty. But I see absolutely no problem with that. And rightfully, Max Verstappen was allowed to keep his lead. Someone who was absolutely fuming, though, was Alex Albon on the radio. I've got to talk about this because he was absolutely livid at his team's pit strategy. But he had a good day today, in truth. You know, I said that Williams were really going to struggle coming into this weekend because it's a very technical track. It's a very, it's a track that traditionally doesn't really suit them unless you go way back to the glory days of Williams back in the early 2000s. They're not really had a good result here in a long, long time. But Alex Albon managed to get 9th place despite all his complaints today. Again, the only Williams in the points. They did a fantastic job today, in my opinion. But yeah, very much angry at his race engineer, being like, why did you pick me then? What's going on? You don't make any sense. What are you playing at, man? But, you know, the results speak for themselves, and that is 2 points for Williams today. 2 very big points indeed. Let's talk about Kimi Antonelli today because he broke a record. He became the youngest driver in the history of Formula 1 to lead a Grand Prix. Sadly for him, he won't break the record for the youngest ever race winner. I believe the time that we get our next race in Bahrain next weekend, he will be older than what Max Verstappen was when he won his first race at the 2016 Spanish Grand Prix. But he does break a record, like I said. He did become the youngest ever driver to lead a race, and he led it for quite some time, in fairness. He ran so long on the mediums. I think he ran nearly 40 laps or something ridiculous like that on them, which just didn't seem possible really. But hey, he did it and he kept it. His pace was incredibly consistent. He did a good job to keep behind Sir Lewis Hamilton behind him as well, who was running the alternate strategy, going from hard to medium rather than medium to hard. So fair play to Antonelli. Really good race for him today. Solid day for Mercedes in true 5th and 6th. Nothing too spectacular, but you got to remember, this kid's 18. This is his 3rd Grand Prix and he's not that far behind George Russell. So if I had a hat, I would very much take it off to you, sir. Very well done indeed. But yeah, well done to Red Bull as well. They do seem as though they are back, at least in the hands of Max Verstappen anyway. He won, I want to say, relatively comfortably. The gap was not that big by the end, only about 1.5 seconds or so, but there were no point during that race where Norris actually looked like he was going to overtake Max Verstappen. The only point where he looked like he was going to get close to him, or did get close to him, I should say, was the pit lane exit at the first stop, where he actually went onto the grass, of course, but we already covered what happened there. Incredible, really. Max Verstappen breaks a few records of his own. He becomes the first driver to win the Japanese Grand Prix 4 times in a row. He matches Sebastian Vettel's overall tally. I believe Red Bull now have the most wins out of any constructor at Suzuka. I don't think it's for the Japanese Grand Prix. I think just Suzuka, because McLaren, of course, did win at least one at Fuji back in the day as well. So incredible stuff for them, really. He did a fantastic job. He really just controlled the pace, controlled the race, got into turn 1 in the lead, and that was it. that was it. I don't think you could say that he held up the McLarens, that he was slower than the McLarens, and even if he was, you know, he still did an incredible job to keep him behind. But I think he did a fantastic job today. I really, really did. And that does very much throw the cat amongst the pigeons. He is not that far behind Lando Norris in the championship standings at all. I think he was only second before today's race as well. So a strong day for McLaren, 2-3. You know, that's really helping their Constructors' Championship. But they'll be worried. Lando Norris is going to be worried right now because going into Bahrain, you know, Red Bull and Max Verstappen, they've managed to win. Obviously, in the hands of Yuki Tsunoda, not quite as good. Of course, I think he ended up P12 in the end, no points for him. But, you know, that's the final thing I want to talk about. The final thing. I mean, I built up Japan. I love Suzuka. I think it's a fantastic racetrack. It's one of my favourite on the calendar. But my God, was this race dull. About half an hour into the race, and you guys know how much I love Formula 1. This kicked off at 6 a.m. today in the morning in the UK. You know, I got up nice and early for it, 5 minutes before the race was scheduled to start. And, you know, I would say about half an hour into the race, I was like, I really should just got an extra hour here. You know, I wouldn't have missed anything. I still could have recapped it for you. I could have just looked what happened, you know. But, you know, that's the dedication I've got for you here, guys, on the Formula Reports. But at the end of the day, it was not a good one. You know, there were no safety cars, no virtual safety cars, no retirements. Not really many major incidents. I mean, aside from Norris and Verstappen in the pit lane, I mean, was it Gasly who hit Ocon's front wing? Not Ocon, Behrman's front wing. Didn't even need to pit to repair it. Wasn't even that much damage. It was just a little tap at the Casio triangle, the chicane there. So honestly, this was bad. It was bad. I mean, the main thing is for me though as well, we didn't have any grass fires. The rain came overnight. That wasn't a problem again, which is good because we would have seen a red flag every 10 laps, which would have been beyond farcical even for Formula 1 standards. But yeah, this was not a classic. This really was not a classic at all. The field spread was tiny as well. I believe we only had one car lapped, and that was Lance Stroll, who ran the softs at first, and he might have been one of the few guys to do a 2-stop because of that. But yeah, watch the highlights. Don't watch the full race replay. You can get enough from the 7 minutes or 8 minutes or whatever highlights they're going to put online because this was not a classic. But let's hope for better action in Bahrain next week. I'm looking forward to it. It's a good racetrack, and at least the sparks will be flying, and hopefully without any grass fires, because thankfully there is no grass in Bahrain. It's all desert. So yeah, see you soon for that, guys. We'll bring you plenty of F1 news and reaction in the meantime. But yeah, not a classic today. This made China look, well, like a classic. If you want to see more from us, like, share, comment, subscribe as always. Guys, like I said, we'll bring you plenty of news in the meantime. And at the end of this video, I'll put the Mario Andretti video. Why not? You know, I'm so proud we managed to get that interview across the line. So if you want something that is much more entertaining than what this race was this morning, go check that out.